wangubo owathiwa ngumntu uvukile ngexesha walelo budoda bakhe owuse mjoli phathwa qubulase nje wathi wawo bhekisa amasebe ethukela singonongasa ophathwa ewe omaphungi eswasini noma eqometi khona ewe gobogeba kamjoli kawuse kalufelwenza kambenga thola. The drum beats of Africa is calling. The drums tell of a great event, an event which has gathered many over the seas and the lands. Yes, Africa is a dry and a thirsty land. Kodwa bathi ithemba liyaphilisa. Hope gives one life. We give thanks and praise to the one who shows us kindness by sending the rains, the one who instructs the clouds to send a mighty downpour onto our earth. Yes, he sends the rains in their seasons. And as the rains fall, all our fields yield their crops, and the trees bear their fruits. As the rain falls, everything comes to life. Oh, imvula, imvula, chapa, 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 imvula, kum, kum, liyadudu. Every drop of water is precious. It must be used for growth, for life. Water must not be wasted. And we are grateful to each and every single one of you here who strive to protect our water resources and reduce our water losses. Ewe nina, bathi indlela ibuzwa kwabaphambili. Siyanibulela, siyanilandela futhi, zingcali, bafundisi, ewe, bochwepheshe besayensi. Le nqokelelo wobuchopho benu sayihalalisa. Sithi halala Waterloss conference halala. All you gathered here in the plains and hills of my Africa. Africa is a warm and powerful place. May you have a peaceful and rewarding stay. But do you know where you are? Do you know this Africa of mine? Do you feel this Africa of mine? Ubuntu. A word said by Archbishop Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela. It means that I am because we are. So let me say, my Africa with you. Ay, madoda. You know, in the Xhosa culture, they say that ukuhamba kukufunda. To travel is to learn. And our journey has taken us across our dramatic landscape to the hills of the Eastern Cape province. There, young Xhosa men used to leave their homes in search of work. They would find them up eGoli, eGauteng, in Johannesburg, in the mines. And to break the mundaneness of the mining, they would slap their boots, breaking the rhythms, and sending signals down each of the shafts. But now, it is a form of rhythm and dance that we know as gumboot dancing. Yeah. Feel that rhythm. Hey, yeah. The sun does not set without new discoveries each and every single day. And so our journey continues, celebrating each and every one of our people, from the mighty Zulu warriors of KwaZulu-Natal to the powerful rain queens of Tshivenda up in Limpopo, all the way to the high mountain kingdom of Lesotho. Each and every single one of our cultures loves song. And the love of song, rhythm, and dance unites each and every single one of us. To celebrate this colorful heritage of South Africa, we welcome the Injongo Choir to share in song with us. A celebration by our youth to save our water for the life-giving power it gives us. Halala injonga, halala. Yes. My friends, you have seen parts of what makes our great continent. Our rich culture, our diversity. All is a tapestry which forms who we are as a people. But we are who we are because of others. And so we will stand shoulder to shoulder, proud of our land, and we will work to preserve our national heritage and reduce our water losses. May you rise as we sing the South African national anthem, Nkosi Sikelel. You may be seated. Welcome to the Waterloss Conference of 2018.
Hey, push,
way. Yes. Mama. Yes.
Minister of Water and Sanitation, Mr. Gugilian Quinty, Deputy Executive Mayor of the City of Cape Town, Alderman Ian Nielsen, CEO of the Water Research Commission, Mr. Desigan Naidu, Chairman of the International Water Association Water Loss Specialist Group, Dr. Ronnie McKenzie, past Chairman of the Water Loss Specialist Group, Mr. Ken Brothers, Mr. Bambos Shailambas, Mr. Tim Waldron, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the opening session of the IWA's Waterloss 2018 conference. My name is Karen Seago. I'm a water resources engineer with a civil engineering firm in Pretoria, and I've been privileged to lead the local organizing committee in preparations for this year's event. Firstly, thanks to the team that put on that outstanding welcome performance. And I hope you all enjoyed that brief snippet of the many diverse cultures and talents we have here in South Africa. Benjamin Franklin is quoted as saying, "When the well runs dry, we shall know the value of water." Whilst the actual interpretation of this saying relates wider to just that of water, one finds this quote is often used in the context of water. Looking around the room today, I would like to believe that prior to the well running dry, we do know the value of water. Experts from 50 countries have come together for the next few days around the topic of water, and more specifically, water losses. There is a well-known proverb, waste not, want not. This should remain forefront in our mind as we tackle the challenge of water losses. If we are able to provide a sustainable environment for future generations, we have to continue the fight against water losses. We look forward to hearing about the various approaches and methodologies used both locally and abroad to tackle the issue of water losses over the next few days. We will hear about practical solutions as well as strategic interventions. We hope you will make use of this opportunity to meet and discuss water loss issues with the many specialists that are seated in the room today. In South Africa, the Government Department of Water and Sanitation is the custodian of all water resources. The department's vision for water custodianship is to protect, use, develop, conserve, manage, and control water resources to achieve sustainable and equitable development in South Africa now and for future generations. We are excited to have a new minister leading this task from February this year. Please welcome Minister Gugilian Quinty to formally open the Waterloss 2018 conference. Please be upstanding as he comes to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Karen. And people who know me, they probably think, what's happening with him is nervous today. I'm not normally nervous. I'm sure the deputy mayor must also be one of those people who think, what's going on with him today? But the chairperson of the association, Dr. McKenzie, the former chairperson, members of the committee, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me perhaps sum up by saying all protocol observed, so that I do not miss out by default even to salute everybody who's here who should be saluted by me. I must confess from the onset that I'm undergoing intensive induction at the moment, and you're one of, rather you're some of the people today who will, I'll be here for the next 2 hours, I'm told, and I'll be listening very, very carefully so that I learn. I see Tesson is sitting there, he's smiling, but because he realizes that I'm in trouble. They put me in trouble here. But having said that, we must really thank you very much, our honorable guests from outside the country, for blessing us here and be here with us, particularly because you come at a time when South Africa is going through very, very difficult time. Therefore, it is with great pleasure that we welcome you here today, and we hope that we will certainly ensure, even on our part as well, that you enjoy a truly South African hospitality whilst you're here. Thank you very much for coming at this time. And as Minister of Water and Sanitation, I'm just about 2.5 months now in the job. I didn't realize it's so intensive until I came into it. When I came in, I had a very nice chat with the minister before me, and I was listening to her. She says, "There's a lot of international work with water." I said, "Oh, that's why you were not staying in South. You're always a guest in South Africa. You're always elsewhere." So I am responsible for the provision of water for almost 55 million South Africans. This is a lot of responsibility. And my department manages the supply of bulk water from many dams and groundwater across the country. And these are sources which in fact cover an area in excess of 1.2 million square kilometers. It's a huge area, South Africa. Water is moved to the cities and towns through a network of pipelines. Because South Africa, being as large as it is, it does actually have, historically, South Africa has had this capacity to manage water, except that perhaps because in the past there weren't as many people as we have today who are actually having the opportunity to access water. And there were fewer people, in other words, and therefore maybe that's why the problem wasn't as accentuated as it is today. Because today we have got many, many more people who are involved, or rather enjoying water in South Africa. To place this in perspective, you may note that South Africa is the industrial powerhouse of the continent of Africa, and it covers an area exceeding that of the UK, Germany, France, and Italy, together, combined. It is in that context that we're delighted to host this International Water Association's Biennial Waterloss Conference here in Cape Town, which is recognized as the premier tourist destination of the African continent, one of the top tourist destinations in the world. Thank you very much for coming to South Africa and Cape Town particularly, because Cape Town really needs this kind of discussion at the moment. And the rest of South Africa will probably learn from Cape Town or the outcome of this conference today. While we recognize that we are in the midst of the worst drought on record in the Western Cape, it is important to appreciate that South Africa is a semi-arid country, and we must deal with such events as part of our normal existence. Indeed, I was saying the other day during my first engagement in a conference on International Water Day, I was saying that we should as well, as South Africans, believe in what scientists say. I think now we will actually take note of what scientists tell us about what's happening. When they talk about climate change, we'll take note of that and actually follow their advice. I know that the Water Resource Commission in our department, when I met with them first time, they said, we produce wonderful research material, but our department doesn't use it. Cheapest. I thought, well. That's the gentleman who was saying that. He's sitting there, Naidu was sitting there somewhere. Yeah, he's still there. He was not happy with the way in which we manage. He says, when we go outside the country, other countries use the material we're producing. I said, at least in consolation, that perhaps we're not believing too much in science. Not yet, anyway. But today, I think, given what's happening in South Africa today, we will certainly do. And that's why we're very, very pleased that this conference is held here in South Africa, in Cape Town in particular. As members of the International Water Loss Specialist Group, it is highly fitting that this water loss event takes place in Cape Town, and particularly in the Century City Conference Center, which has been designated in such a manner that it is one of the most water-efficient conference centers in South Africa, and one of the most efficient in the world. You, as the world's water loss specialists, will appreciate and understand the many interventions that have been incorporated into the hotel and conference facilities to reduce water use. We are proud to showcase this facility and welcome you to experience true water conservation in practice. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, thank you very much. You're welcome to South Africa. Thank you.
It was decided at the previous Water Loss Conference in Bangalore, India, that the next event would be brought to Cape Town. That was in February 2016. Little did we know that, between then and now, Cape Town would be hit by the worst drought on record, and real threats of a day zero, which is the name given to the date predicted that the taps would run dry, would sound. Yet we pushed on with arrangements, believing that the overall benefits of bringing the conference to Cape Town would far outweigh the small inconveniences that will be felt by the delegates in keeping water use to a minimal. In fact, the belief is held that bringing together the expertise that is now present in this room will be of a major benefit to Cape Town. We would like to thank the City of Cape Town for hosting us and the warmth with which you have welcomed us and we have been received. We would like to call on Alderman Ian Nielsen of the City of Cape Town to provide the formal delegate welcome. This is fitting, as Alderman Nielsen has a master's degree in civil engineering from the University of Cape Town, and he has spent 20 years in the fields of water supply planning and design and flood studies. Please welcome Mr. Alderman Ian Nielsen.
Well, good morning, Minister Ntwinti, ladies and gentlemen. Really, it's a great pleasure for me to be able to welcome you all here to the City of Cape Town. Special welcome to all the international delegates. We are the conference capital of Africa. So this is an area where this city has certainly been blooming over the last decade. And it's great to continue to have ongoing conferences here. It really is appropriate that this biennial event is being hosted in our city at this time. And thank you to the IWA Water Loss Specialist Group for organizing this event, to all the delegates and exhibitors who will be spending their time in our city over the next few days. I'm sure I don't need to remind you that we are currently enforcing strict water restrictions, and we'd like to encourage all visitors to join us in our water conservation efforts and to save like a local. We are looking forward to sharing our experience with you and learning more about your experiences and solutions. I'm sure you're all aware we are currently experiencing the most intense and protracted drought in recent history. We need to accept that the days of plentiful water supply in Cape Town may very well be over. We need to accept the realities of being situated in a water-scarce region, characterized by climatic unpredictability. And because of this, we as a city, as a province, and indeed as a country, have had to fundamentally change our way of thinking around water. How we use it, how best to manage and conserve it, and how to secure a more diversified supply. And this new reality is not unique to Cape Town and South Africa. We are increasingly seeing the effects of climate change and unpredictable weather patterns on water security across the world. More and more cities are also becoming under increasing strain due to urbanization and aging infrastructure. This means that we need to focus our planning and resources not only on building water resilience and securing a sustainable supply, but also on minimizing water losses and ensuring that our systems function as efficiently as possible from source to tap. For the past 28 years, the City of Cape Town has adopted a strong conservation and infrastructure-led approach to water management, and these plans are reviewed constantly. In 2001, for example, the city commissioned the Khayelitsha Pressure Management Project, which achieved savings of approximately 9 million cubic meters a year, representing 40% of the original 22 million cubic meters a year that was supplied to that area. Our overall water losses are 16% compared to the national average of 36%. Non-water revenue for the 12-month period ending December 2017 was 23%, and it has generally remained within the 20 to 25% band over the past 10 years. And I must add that under non-revenue water, we also include water which is provided free to informal households via communal taps and sanitation facilities. And despite this, Cape Town's non-revenue water compares very favorably with the national average of approximately 41%. Our proactive water management approach has seen our water demand remain relatively flat, despite our population growth almost doubling since 1996. The city has, for some time, been implementing aggressive pressure management, prioritizing the maintenance of infrastructure, accelerating leak detection and repairs, and coordinating extensive communication and public education initiatives to drive water conservation and demand management. Cape Town's water conservation and water demand management program have been internationally lauded for its success in reducing water demand and loss through both technical and behavioral interventions. Prior to the onset of this drought, the city was using water well under its registered allocation from the bulk water schemes because of its demand management and conservation efforts. For decades, our city has been well served by its water supply infrastructure. This infrastructure, as well as associated water management techniques, enabled us to safely navigate previous drought periods. This drought, however, is far more serious than anything we've experienced in the past century. It can be characterized as an extreme hydrological event which has seen the levels of the 6 dams that comprise the Western Cape water supply system drop to just over 20%. Over the past months, we have therefore escalated our campaign to restrict excessive users. Since October, we have installed over 33,000 demand management devices at homes of high users, and we continue to install more each week. We've had water restrictions in place since 2005, which were progressively intensified to the point where we recently introduced our level 6B restrictions. Residents are requested to use no more than 50 litres of water per person per day in order to meet our collective consumption target of 450 million litres a day. An advanced pressure management program has been implemented across the city to reduce water flow, resulting in savings of up to 50 million litres a day. We have reduced pressures, for example, down to 5 metres of head at the highest point in a network, and we take that up to 8 metres for 4 hours during the day. This, combined with an extensive communication campaign, has resulted in Cape Town's collective water usage dropping from 1,200 megalitres a day in 2015 to just over 500 megalitres a day at present. And without these measures, Cape Town may very well have run out of water by now. In addition to driving down consumption, the city has also initiated various augmentation schemes to supplement its water supply, realizing that we can no longer rely solely on surface water due to the unpredictability of rainfall and increasing unpredictability. Our water augmentation program incorporates desalination, groundwater extraction, and water reuse. Internally, we developed new scenarios based on the most pessimistic view of the drought and likely rainfall. We had to acknowledge that the impacts of climate change added significant uncertainty to existing models. We therefore had to build resilience into every aspect of our thinking and planning around water. Resilience is defined as the capacity of individuals, communities, institutions, businesses, and systems to survive, adapt, and grow, and even thrive, no matter what kind of stress or acute shocks they experience. So while our dams may well fill up over time, our future will have to include an improved ratio of non-surface water to surface water options. And our modelling estimated that we need an additional 50 to 100 million litres of water per day in our system to augment existing supplies. However, if the current very low rainfall of the last 3 years continues into the future, we will require augmentation of around 250 megalitres a day to keep our dam levels above 25%. Our planning, therefore, had to take into consideration both short-term emergency programs as well as longer-term, more permanent solutions. An appropriate mix of new water needed to be determined, taking into account the yield, cost, time to implement, and environmental impact of the various options available. Long-term, permanent desalination and water reuse, for example, are preferable to short-term projects which are more costly and have a lower yield. Groundwater has a lower environmental impact and is also much less expensive than desalination. Importantly, it can be managed as a form of water storage through recharge and is a much more efficient form of storage as there is very little evaporation. Water reuse is also significantly cheaper than desalination and quicker to implement. Water demand in Cape Town will continue to grow as a result of population and economic growth. It's therefore essential that we devise a long-term plan to increase resilience to periods of drought while also providing for future growth. This requires the government and the private sector to work together. It requires local and international stakeholders to collaborate, and for everyone involved to come to an agreement on how best we can secure our future. And I hope that you will make use of this opportunity over the next few days to share information and best practices with each other. By working together, we will be able to address the challenges we face much faster and more efficiently. And I trust that this conference will lead to many opportunities to do so. Thank you very much.
So, as the conference arrangements moved forward, the topic of who would do the keynote address came up. We discussed and debated many names amongst the local organising committee. However, I always felt that none were quite perfect for the occasion. I sat and pondered one day on who we could approach that is both an excellent speaker and also knows the water sector well. And then it suddenly dawned on me, we had one obvious choice in our midst all along. I must say, it took some persuading of Ronnie to agree to do it. Actually, I didn't give him a choice. Ronnie Mackenzie is a civil engineer, one of the few in South Africa with a doctorate degree. He was for many years a director of a major consulting engineering firm before he left to start a more specialized company in 1998, of which he is still the managing director today. Ronnie's reputation in both water resources planning and water demand management precedes him in South Africa and around the world. Today, we open the 9th biennial conference of the Waterloss Specialist Group. Ronnie was at the first conference in Lemmersos back in 2002, and he has attended every event since. He has been instrumental on both the theoretical and practical side of water loss management. He introduced the IWA water balance concepts into South Africa and has initiated many large-scale pressure management installations throughout the country. It is a privilege to have worked for Ronnie over the last 15 years, over which time I've got to know him and his wife, Christine, as friends. The South African water sector gained a major player when the two of them decided to leave Scotland for drier pastures of South Africa back in 1983. Please welcome Dr. Ronnie Mackenzie, Chairman of the Waterloss Specialist Group, to present the keynote address of Waterloss 2018.
Okay, there we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cape Town. And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cape Town. And Honourable Minister in Quinty, and our guests, etc., from Cape Town. I'd just like to thank you for ignoring all the newspaper reports about how terrible Cape Town is with the water situation and taking the chance to come here. I think you'll find you've made the right choice, and we're going to give you a bit of an overview. I can't remember the title of my talk, to be honest, so I've left it blank. So we're basically going to wing it now, and we'll see where we go from there. First of all, we normally like to keep things lively. We'd like to have an award. We're going to have an award today. And just to show you what we've got some prizes. We've got a car. I'm not sure if it's going... It was here earlier in the foyer. I've asked them to bring it back. It's a Bentley. It's a £5.5 million Bentley. So if you wonder why we're skimping a bit on sandwiches and such like, we've used most of the budget for that. So that's... we've also got a round the world cruise, that you can have that. And third prize is a bottle of fine South African wine. Now, the winner, I can tell you, is a gentleman by the name of Yaku Winter. I don't know if you're here, Yaku. You can come up and see me at the end. Is it? Oh, I saw a hand there. Yaku, you have won the prize. I'm sure you're very excited about that. I can tell you. We're going to open it. It's the wine. It's a bottle. So congratulations. This is a sort of Scottish competition. This is how we do these in Scotland. So and just so that you know we're not cheating, we do have this audited by KPMG. There you go. So just to show you we're not, there's no gamesmanship here. Okay. Your prize, by the way, we're giving you as a token, and you can go to one of the aisles at the back there. It's D9 or D7, and it's some local ladies from the community in the Cape Town area that are making all the prizes for the speakers this year. And you can, they've got various prizes that you can pick, and they've got a bottle of wine there for you. So please enjoy it. It's a fine South African wine. Okay, Waterloss Conference, just to fill in where we are. As Karen's mentioned, we've had a few in the past. And Cape Town, we have 420 delegates this time around. We're a bit less than we were in 2009. We're missing about 20 delegates. I must mention most of the delegates, it's a fairly even split between international and local. And as I say, we're a bit down on last time, 2009. One of the reasons for that is actually, you've heard the term fake news. Well, we have fake conferences here. And this one came up a couple of weeks ago, which is quite interesting. It was being held in Johannesburg, a non-revenue water. It looks remarkably similar to one of the ones that Malcolm Farley organises in London. And very similar, in fact. And it's being held in 2 different locations at the same time at the end of May. As you can see, there's the dates on the 24th. I hope none of you have registered for that one. Unfortunately, it is a fake conference. There we go, 8,000. And there's the speakers. There's the fake speakers at this conference. Malcolm Farley and Tim Waldron. Now, they were quite upset when they saw that they were being used in this. And that conference has recently been cancelled. But it did have 28 delegates. So had we got those 28 delegates, we would have been 8 up on 2009. Okay. A couple of pictures just to show you what Cape Town's all about. Lovely, lovely country, full of lovely scenery, mountains, seaside. The waterfront is just down the road here. Go and enjoy the waterfront. Lovely hotels you can visit. You can go to the aquarium and see all the fish and turtles. You don't need a wetsuit, by the way. You can stand on this side of the glass if you want. You can go in if you've got a wetsuit with you, just feel free. There's also a world-class museum, as you can see, that's been built at the waterfront there. This is, they call it the Silo Museum. Very, very impressive. It's one of the most impressive buildings that you're likely to see. You can see that it's cut out of an old silo that was originally used in the old days for the grain. This is one of the exhibits. I think they've spent most of the money on actually the building. So a couple of the exhibits are probably, this is what we have in Glasgow. We have exhibits like this in Glasgow. But there are some really good ones. You have the buses. You can go around Cape Town in the buses as well. Animals. You've all been hearing about dangerous animals. I'm sure many of you are really worried when you go out at night and careful. We've obviously got lots of animals in South Africa. It's famous for its animals. We've got big horns, and they can really jump onto you and do all sorts of stuff. Leopards, they generally just lie about and do nothing. They're fairly safe, but just if you're at one of the game parks, just check the shower before you turn on the water. Lions are there. The lions will be waiting for you. if you are driving in a game park, I would recommend you close your window. This is a bit, I'm quite serious. This is one that's, this is one that's, you may have seen this picture on the internet. It's a lion that's taken a liking to the tires of a Land Rover. And this is quite an interesting one. If you look at this one, what I find interesting about this, it's not the two lions chewing the tires on the back of a Land Rover. It's the fact that the driver, there's something worse happening in front of them. One lion's just bitten its back tire and blown the tire. The second lion has taken away the spare so that they can't get out. And the owner is looking at the front for something else that's happening. Anyway, this is another one. I know the obvious question is, where is the cyclist? Well, there we go. This is just general. We have to put up with this regularly when we go out cycling. I've taken up cycling. It's quite a challenge, I tell you. There's elephants. They're friendly. This one, the driver's from the Free State. I don't know if any of you are from the Free State here. You should close your windows. That's what they're playful. They're playful. They like to. It's not aggressive. It's just that's what they do to play. They push down trees and they turn cars over. This is me on Saturday, last Saturday, just before I came here. I had a bit of a run-in with a zebra. That's not a joke, by the way. It ran into me when I was cycling, and it knocked me off my bicycle, and it took me 6 months to recover from it. So what I'm telling you is serious. This is not to be taken too lightly. Anyway, that's our animals. Coming back to Cape Town, most of you were wondering, have we got water in Cape Town? Well, I think Ian's given a very good overview, as has the Minister of Water and Sanitation. We are sitting here, roughly at 20, I think the last I looked, it was 20.9%. The blue line is where they cut, that was the day zero level, where the taps would be cut. So at the moment, the situation is under control and it's being managed. Obviously, it's a serious drought, as you've heard, and you must try and save water. In this complex, this is one of the most water-efficient complexes in the world. They've got automatic timers on most of the taps, or all of the taps. They're using recycled water in the toilets to flush the toilets. And it's a bit of a grubby picture, this, but anyway. It's just to put your mind at ease. If you go into your hotel room and the water in the toilet looks like that, don't panic too much. No one's been using your toilet. It's supposed to be a kind of yellowy green color, which is recycled effluent from the whole Century City complex. It's one of the few in the world where they take the effluent, recycle it, and bring it back into the hotel and use it in the toilet. So don't worry too much. It's supposed to be that color. It's perfectly safe. You don't need to worry at all. I wouldn't drink it, but it's perfectly safe for flushing down the toilet, okay? This is just a slide from Australia. Is Tim here? Hampson Tim. They went through their worst drought on record a number of years ago. But their target was 140 litres per person per day, and you could shower for 4 minutes. Cape Town is in a much more severe event. As you heard, we're targeting 50 litres per person per day. That's not a lot of water, and your showers are supposed to be for 2 minutes. So indulge me, I've just put a few water-saving penguin slides up. I like penguins, as you probably gather. So you'll see penguins everywhere. I think they're cute. Anyway, Cape Town uses them to convince people to save water. So there's a couple of slides. Water-wise gardening, reporting leaks, shower with a buddy. That's a good one. You could do that. Then you can have 4 minutes. Shower with a bucket. There's Stuart trying to chat up a penguin in Cape Town. And if you do go into the nature reserve, when you see a sign, they're not kidding. The signs here are quite serious. So if you see a little penguin at the bottom there, and that's actually where it was. Okay, some background to water in South Africa, just so that you understand how South Africa works. This is a water loss conference, but there's the other side of the equation, and I'm going to just quickly take you through the situation with regards to water supply on a national scale. I'm not going to concentrate specifically on Cape Town, but it's the same concept that is used to manage all of the country's water resources in the major centres. Just to put it in perspective, when we talk of Africa, most people do not realise the size of Africa. You've heard the Honourable Minister mention that South Africa on its own is quite a large country. It's actually bigger than the UK, France, Germany, and most of Italy combined. So it's a big country. Africa as a continent is bigger than the combined Europe, plus India, plus China, plus the United States. So it's a big continent. In South Africa, which is at the tip of the African continent, we have extreme climates. We have from very, very dry, which currently includes Cape Town, but it's not supposed to. But normally we have a very arid area where the rainfall can be below 25 millimeters, with evaporation up at 3.5 meters, which is enormous. Up to Lesotho, where we can have rainfall in excess of 1,000 millimeters a year, and the evaporation there is also about 1,000. So that's a good place to store water. So we build dams all over the country, and some of our major storage dams are actually within the country of Lesotho, which is a separate country in the middle of South Africa. It's like the hole in a donut. It's right in the middle, and South Africa surrounds Lesotho, and we buy the water from Lesotho. Lesotho's major export is water. Just like Scotland, it's whiskey. Lesotho, it's water. Okay, we have climatic extremes. We can go from very, very dry to very big floods. Our droughts will vary in length, anything up to 15 years, depending whereabouts in the country you're located. I think Cape Town is currently in its 3rd year of drought. So hopefully this drought here will not last longer than 3 years. 3 years in the Cape is quite a long drought. 15 years in the very dry areas is not unusual. This is a map of South Africa showing you Namibia, Botswana, Lesotho's a little bit there. This is the Orange River Basin, which is one of the 3, this is the largest river basin in southern Africa, and it is one of the 3 major systems that we operate using computer models that have been developed here, which I'm going to discuss. The other 2 systems are the Cape system and the system in KwaZulu-Natal covering eThekwini. Just to put it in perspective, that is a state in America, Washington State, just to show you the size of the catchment that we're dealing with. The Honourable Minister of Water and Sanitation, he has a big area to deal with. I don't think he's realised quite what he's in for, but he's got a big job ahead of him. Each of those arrows represents a major transfer scheme. South Africa is moving water from one part of the country to the other. The rule of water is it doesn't always flow downhill. It flows towards money. That's the rule. And if you look anywhere in the world, you will see that that is the case. It's flowing to the mines, it's flowing to the power stations, it's flowing to the car factories. Wherever there's major development, water is needed. And in South Africa, as the Minister alluded to, there is a major infrastructure where we're transferring water, often over 1,000 kilometres, and pumping or over 500 metres of head, or transferring through tunnels. This is a slide that just shows you the storage of our reservoirs in the country. This is courtesy of Department of Water and Sanitation. The slide, the top of the bar represents the total storage, and the blue bar represents how full that storage is, which means if you look carefully, you can see that periodically we hit a drought event where the storages are down at below 50% perhaps. It happens. It's been happening for hundreds of years. It will happen for many hundreds of years to come. And the point being made here is climatic variability is becoming a bigger issue. The droughts will become more severe and the floods will become more severe. And we will have to deal with that. And while Cape Town at the moment is in a dire situation with its water, it's not going to be the last major city to suffer a drought of this magnitude. And we'll be talking about that during the next 3 days. But those droughts, basically, at one point last year in 2015, we hit 50% for the country as a whole. With Cape Town, it was much lower, and in other parts of the country, our reservoirs were quite full. So it varies from where you are in the country, whether you're in a drought or whether you're okay. The big system, I'm going to just touch on this fairly quickly. The big system, the models were developed, that the South African government are using models developed back in 1983 that have been enhanced and improved over the past 30 years. They were developed jointly by America, Canada, the UK, and South Africa. And they are amongst the most potent and powerful models of their type in the world. So do not think that South African technology is not at the cutting edge of technology. We have the Water Research Commission, which is regarded worldwide as one of the major players in water research. And the models developed are being operated. This is a picture. I was looking for the next slide I'll show you. I was looking for a picture of a particular computer, and I saw this, which I thought was good. This was what they thought a home computer would look like in the year 2004. And it was a slide from, I think, 1954. This is what they thought a laptop was going to look like. And I thought that was interesting. It's got a steering wheel, which... Anyway, I didn't have to work on that one. I worked on this one. So I worked on the system models where we were developing them for water affairs. Everything in those days we worked in Fortran, and no one's even heard of it now. So I'm out of a job as far as programming goes. That's why Karen's taken over my job. So anyway, when it comes to modeling, what we do, and I'm going to go through it, I'll give you a 4-week course in about 3 minutes. Basically, we start off with a system, and there's reservoirs and rivers and demand centers, irrigation schemes, power stations, towns and cities, and we convert it to a network, and it's got dams, which are the blue triangles, and the demand centers are the blue rectangles, and you've got inflows and outflows, and it's very, very complicated. Don't worry about that. We make it more complicated. We add all sorts of additional things. Operating rules. We add operating rules, which is how we're going to operate the system during a drought event. We then convert it into a pure network, and we solve it using a network solver, as you would solve a transportation problem. The uniqueness of this modeling technique is quite amazing. It's a very powerful tool because we're modeling a river system using a transportation solver. Now, what we've done in the Orange River Basin, which is a catchment of more than 1 million square kilometers, is broken up into different basins. Those basins can be in a different climatic zone. We're not talking of small basins, we're talking of areas the size of a small country in Europe. Some of these areas are bigger than some European countries. And that's what the model looks like. You might struggle a bit at the back there to spot it really, but that's what the model looks like. Each of these blocks blows up. And if you actually look at them, if we go right down to them and we home in and we go down, like use a microscope, we can eventually see a specific reservoir or demand center or power station, etc. And that's basically, that model is run by Karen. So I'm getting my own backing Karen here. She is operating the biggest system model of its type that I know of in the world. So it's quite a significant model. She's not just good at organizing conferences. This is what she does. That's her day job. And the system that she's doing is 87 dams, 279 small dams, and a small dam can still be a 60-meter high wall in some cases. 1,250 abstractions integrated. It's horrible. It's huge amounts. I've given this up long ago. Some pictures. Those are the dams that are in this system. They're not Mickey Mouse dams. They're quite big. Some of them have got hydropower. Some of them are big storage. Some of them are spilling at the moment. It's ironic. On the Orange River, the dams are spilling at the moment, or they were last week. I don't know if they are this week, while Cape Town is in its worst drought. So 600 kilometers away, the dams are spilling, and in Cape Town we have no water. They have tunnels. That's an 84-kilometer tunnel, one of the longest in the world. This is a dam in Lesotho. This is another Kaatse Dam. Kaatse Dam is higher than the highest point in Denmark. Did you know that? I'm sure most of you knew that, but anyway, I just thought I'd reinforce that there. Oh, wrong way. We'll go that way. What else have we got? This is the tunnel, the Kaatse Tunnel. That's transferring water to basically to Johannesburg, through an 84-kilometer tunnel. The water gets picked up by our largest water supplier, which is Rand Water, and they purify the water from Lesotho and then pump it up 250 meters, and then it gravitates to all the major cities up in Gauteng, as far as the Platinum Belt. We've got some big mines. I won't dwell on this one. This one's been in the news quite recently, so I won't talk about that one. This is the Optimum coal mine. I'm not sure who owns it these days, but it's owned by someone. World's largest platinum deposits up in Rustenburg. South Africa's got the world's largest known platinum deposits. We've got 9, the 9 deepest mines in the world are in South Africa. They go down to 4.5 kilometers. That is almost as high, or as deep, whichever way you want to look at it, as the highest point in Europe. Mount Blanc, I think it is 15,000 feet high. This is 13,500 foot deep. So it's deep, deep. We've got one of the largest petrochemical plants in the world making fuel from coal. South Africa's got a lot of coal reserves. This plant generates 1/3 of South Africa's fuel. The reason I'm showing you all of these industries, they are all supplied from this system up in Gauteng. Department of Water Affairs and Sanitation, they must ensure that these guys always have water or the whole economy goes down. Power stations. South Africa generates more than 50% of the power in Africa, on the continent. It's got about 40,000 megawatts. What we do when we model a system, when we use things, we basically do a projection of what could happen over the next year, 5 years, or 10 years, and we run 1,000 simulations, and we get 1,000 possible scenarios, which looks a bit muddly like this. It's a bit hard to interpret that. So we stick what they call a box plot onto that. I won't go into that. So we take this nonsense here, and we put a box plot on it, which simplifies it enormously. And what we expect to happen is where the red and the blue are joining each other. That is the expected. Anything above that means that it's actually good, and anything below means it's bad. Okay, so it's pretty simple. That's what it looks like. We do hundreds, thousands of these, and we end up doing a 5-year projection. In this case, the black line represents what has happened over the past 3 or 4 years, and you can see in this case that the black line has dropped into the red zone, which means we're in trouble. That means we're in a drought situation, and those dots at the bottom, those are the trigger points. As soon as we get to one of those dots, we need to implement restrictions. So we're using a very sophisticated methodology. And this is what happened in reality. We went down there, it carried on going down, it hit the dot, we implemented restrictions, and as luck would have it, it went down a little bit more, and then we had an absolute monstrous flood, and then everything was okay again, and life went on. That's generally what's happened. Cape Town is somewhere at this bit at the bottom. It's just as well that Alderman Nielsen is also a flood expert, because I think that's what's going to happen sometime soon. I hope. Okay, this is an example that shows you what shouldn't happen when something goes wrong. You'll see the black line here has jumped below even our worst projection. That is generally an indication that something is not being operated as it was originally planned. And it's really important to pick up these types of problems early on. So we monitor every reservoir, and we try to pick this type of thing up, which means the operating rule is not being adopted. Okay, water losses in South Africa. We've got the WRC models. You've all seen these before. Okay. It's a very sexist slide, this. I do apologize. So we've changed it. We've added we're just trying to balance out the sexes here. It's an improvement, I know. We developed 4 models for the Water Research Commission. I'm just going to go through them. We did a night flow analysis model. These are all made available free of charge from the Water Research Commission. They're based on the BABE technology from the UK. So it's effectively models that we developed together 15, 20 years ago with Alan Lambert. He came out and worked with us for a number of months, and we developed a pressure model. We've built some big pressure installations. We've got the Kailicha one that you've mentioned. It's quite significant. That's one of our favorites. It doesn't look much. I mean, it doesn't look as though it's a particularly impressive installation. Oh, it's been painted. Cape Town didn't like our painting, so they made it all kind of modern. They went modern on it, so they painted it. It does save a swimming pool every 2 hours, or it did when it was first introduced. And another one, we built another big one up in Johannesburg. We've done that. There's Tim there and Willem on that one. Again, the same technology, the same design, same savings. There's another big one here in Cape Town. We've got 3 of the biggest installations, each supplying about 500,000 people. And they're working well. They are the backbone of the pressure management work. On the water balance, South Africa was one of the first countries to develop an Excel spreadsheet-based water balance, if not the first. Alan and I did this, and then it got transported to countries around the world. We've used the IWA water balance, but we've had to modify it slightly in order to incorporate the free basic water. So I'm not even going into that just now, but the fact is South Africa was one of the first countries to adopt the IWA methodology. We looked at the economics of leak location, so we've got that. We find leaks. Technology. Well, technology, there's a number of papers being presented, I think, on technology at this conference. I think some of them are talking about satellite detection of leaks. It's interesting to note that Elon Musk is about to put up an additional 400 satellites, a 300% increase in satellites by the year 2024. So satellite technology is definitely something to look at. Low technology. The problem is, in many of our municipalities, finding the leaks is not the problem. It's getting someone to go out there and fix them that's the problem. We have water gushing out all over the place, as do many other countries around the world. So before you buy a satellite, which is quite pricey these days, fix the existing leaks and then buy the satellite. That's my recommendation. I support new technology. I think it's wonderful. There's low technology. We've got, you'll see this here, there's in the back here, we've got all sorts of really nice kit at the back here. Go and see it at the Cape Town stand. They're bringing in new suppliers every day. So please go and see them in the hall at the back. There's 2 halls for suppliers, not just the one here. There's one at the back. Cape Town is alternating their suppliers, so please go and support them and have a look at what they've got. You'll find some really weird stuff there, so it's worth looking at. This is from the UK. They're using dogs finding leaks. I think this is wonderful. Britain's a dog country. Everyone's got a dog in Britain, so if you can get a dog to find your leak, why not? You can get little dogs and you can add filters onto them and this is Australian. This is what an Australian dog looks like. Little Australian dog. This is a South African one. This is a real dog. It's a Rhodesian Ridgeback, the one on the left. The one on the right's the boss. It's the one that tells the other one what to do. And it's found a leak there. It thinks. Okay, continuous monitoring. I think continuous monitoring is important. Just to give you an example, we've been picking up a lot of leaks that have been running for years by implementing continuous monitoring because the price is coming down continually. So the technology is available, the price is dropping all the time. This was a logging result, doesn't look like it, but anyway, this was a logging result for, it was a premises near Johannesburg where the water was going into it at 25 cubes an hour for the last 3 years. The person paying the bill had no idea whether they had 1 toilet or 10,000 toilets. I think they thought it was maybe a football stadium or something that they were running. Anyway, after we fixed the leak, that's what happened. And the demand dropped, I think, by about 90%, 99%. That's the before and that's the after. So quite significant. Those gems, those low-hanging fruits are available. So look out for them. When you start using continuous monitoring and your client gets the idea of what to do, you'll find they bring their demand down. There's a lot of savings just waiting to be found and saved. So go looking for that. Intermittent supply, you'll hear a lot about that. The IWA policy and recommendation is don't go there. Try to do anything else but intermittent supply. And I think we applaud Cape Town in that regard because they have avoided intermittent supply and they've managed to reduce their demand by almost 60%. I don't know if there's any other major city in the world that has achieved such savings without cutting the water off on large areas. So avoid intermittent supply. It's a road you do not want to go down. This is just another example where a townhouse, an office complex, it's actually our office complex, and we tested it. We got an 80% reduction in the water going into the office complex just by fixing a few leaks. We wouldn't have known that we had those leaks if we hadn't put in the continuous monitoring. So there's lots of products around that do this, and I would highly recommend it, particularly for offices and townhouse complexes, etc. And there we go. This is the organising committee. You can see it's got 1 rose and 5 thorns there. So it's like it was highly. We need a few more guys on the organising committee. So I just want to thank them all for all their hard work. I know I'll speak to them at the end as well, but I just so that if you look around, you can recognise them. It's Mbali, Karen, Donné, Nanga, and Janine. So you'll see them running about. So they are behind. This whole conference has been organised by them. I delegated everything. So, and as I say, I'll be finished after this conference, and the next chairman will be taking over. So that's it. Thank you very much for your time.